This conference will now be recorded.
All right, recording is on. So just a few housekeeping tips before I move on. I have everyone's microphone on mute at this point. If you are either calling in by phone or joining by computer, I will have everyone unmuted during the question and answer period. If you are using a computer, feel free to type any of your questions in the chat box as well, and we will address those. Now, with that said, let's get talking about Cancer Fighting Kitchen. So each month at the Gathering Place, I offer Cancer Fighting Kitchen as a program or resource as part of your nutrition toolbox. I help people get connected to the program and to navigate the program. Now, this month being Minority Health Month, I'll also be discussing, again, barriers to food access or lack of nutritious foods. These are drivers of health disparities that minority populations may face. Now, with that being said, around Minority Health Month, I'm a guest among minority population and am working to unlearn any biased assumptions and hope we can have an honest discussion here. So a little bit more about Cancer Fighting Kitchen. It's both a book and an online program that's been developed by Rebecca Katz. Rebecca Katz is a professional culinary chef who designed the program after helping to take care of her father through his cancer diagnosis. The aim of this self-paced course is to make those with cancer and their support people feel more confident and empowered in the kitchen and to feel relieved knowing how to create nourishing meals to support healing. Now, if you're joining among the community and you may not be affected by cancer, I want you to know that the information presented in this course around nutrition is part of a general healthy diet. So not only to be used as a tool when faced with a cancer diagnosis or promoting cancer survivorship, but also to help establish general healthy eating patterns, which can help reduce risk of a number of chronic diseases. Now, Cancer Fighting Kitchen walks you through the entire cooking process. So starts by sharing tips on your food pantry, goes through how to use kitchen equipment, focusing on those good knife skills is one of them, and then talks a little bit more about meal planning and prepping and offers a variety of tasty recipes. Now, you can access Cancer Fighting Kitchen through the Gathering Place, again, free of charge with its online program. Again, you can find the link and the coupon code from the Gathering Place in the flyer that I emailed out earlier. If you don't have access to a computer or Wi-Fi or just prefer a hard copy version, Cancer Fighting Kitchen is also a book that is available both in the Cleveland Public Library System and the Cuyahoga County Public Library System. Now, if you are looking for the book form, I do recommend trying to find the second edition, which was published in 2017. From the first edition in 2009, there's just been some updated information added regarding evidence-based info for food and cancer, more recipes, more pictures, and just better organization. So keep that in mind if you're looking for a hard copy. Now, for the purpose of our talk tonight, I'm going to focus specifically on the Cancer Fighting Pantry List. Now, when it comes to the food that you have in your fridge, cupboards, or pantry, food access first and foremost matters. A program like Cancer Fighting Kitchen and its pantry list may feel overwhelming if you don't have access to food, let alone enough food, especially during a time like now with COVID. Now, in addition, cultural biases and health disparities exist. Now, nutritious food is part of one of those factors, along with safe housing, reliable public transportation, clean water, education, and culturally sensitive healthcare providers that make up these influences on health. So a greater range of health disparities can lead to increased risk of disease like obesity, heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, and cancer. So when it comes to access to foods, how do we bridge that nutrition gap, or what are some strategies or resources? And in Cleveland, we have a number of resources that help to connect you with food or increasing food access, and also offering nutrition education. One resource I want to highlight is the Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program. This is offered by the Ohio State University Extension. Now, this is a free program that serves adults with children or young adults that face low-income challenges. By joining the program, you can learn how to manage your food resources, learn about healthy eating patterns, how to improve your food safety practices, and to find ways to get active with your family. Now, on the call, I do want to make a shout out. We have Ann Gray. She's a program assistant with EFNEP. And if you have any questions or want more information, she'll be able to offer some info and some support during our question and answer period. Now, another program I want to highlight is resource is the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. Now, the food bank is a great resource to help increase access to food, and they have an awesome initiative called the Food as Medicine that utilizes diet to help you improve your health. On the call tonight, we have Isiah Thomas. He is a rep with the food bank. So again, if you have more questions or want more information on how to enroll in SNAP benefits, he may have some good support and answers during our question period. Now, finally, a program I want to highlight is called the Produce Perks Midwest. So for anyone with SNAP benefits, you can go to local participating grocers like the Dave's Market in Midtown or the Tremont Farmers Market and utilize SNAP or EBT to match dollar for dollar up to $25 on fruits and vegetables. This is a great way to add more fruits and veggies to your plates at home, and consuming more plant foods like whole grains, beans, legumes, fruits, and vegetables can help to decrease your risk of cancer or cancer recurrence, again, in addition to a number of other chronic diseases. But let's pause for a minute and go through a little bit more about what is it from plant foods that make them so beneficial for us. Plant foods contain phytonutrients, which are plant compounds that after we eat the plants can work in our bodies as antioxidants. Antioxidants help to protect ourselves from damage, such as from stress and from chronic inflammation. Now, over time, chronic inflammation, or what's called oxidative stress, can build up and cause cell damage or cell mutations, and this is something that can lead to cancer. Now, besides the phytonutrient benefit, plant foods also are our source of fiber in our diet. And fiber is part of the plant food that we don't digest well, but that our body uses to support our gut, especially our gut health. Now, we're learning more and more just how connected our whole body works together. For instance, our gut houses most of our immune cells or our immune system. So supporting a healthy gut helps to support our immune system. Now, finally, and really tying in with a fiber here, fiber helps us stay full or feel full, and often with something like vegetables, for instance. Vegetables are high in fiber, but they're low in calories. So eating vegetables can help us feel full while also keeping our calorie intake appropriate to help maintain or to reach a healthy weight. Now, at the Gathering Place, we turn to the American Institute of Cancer Research for a lot of our lifestyle behavior recommendations. So that being our movement, our eating patterns. Now, the American Institute of Cancer Research recommends a plant-based diet as a cancer protective diet. Now, when I say plant-based, I don't mean necessarily a strict vegan or vegetarian diet if that's not for you. What plant-based means, and the American Institute of Cancer Research has a nice model for this called the New American Plate, is making most of your plate plant foods. The New American Plate is 2/3 plant foods and 1/3 or less from animal protein. Tying this into Cancer Fighting Kitchen, the pantry list is mostly plant foods. And I'm going to pull that up on my screen now. Let me get it going. Okay, so let me zoom in a little bit. Now, first I'm going to go over some of the areas of the pantry list. Featured on the left-hand side are herbs and spices. Now, herbs and spices are kind of the pizzazz to meals, or what Rebecca Katz calls the yum factor. Using herbs and spices are a great way to flavor dishes without adding extra fat, extra sugar, or extra salt, to still keep your taste buds interested. And oftentimes herbs and spices are left out or underrated or forgotten that they're plants too, and so they provide all those great health benefits. A few herbs that I'll highlight, cilantro, mint, parsley, these are all digestive aids, and they add a nice bright or fresh flavor to meals. Ginger is a spice that can help manage nausea, especially if you're going through cancer treatment and dealing with this as a side effect. Whereas a spice such as cumin or cinnamon, these provide a nice warm or comforting flavor to dishes. Again, if you're going through cancer treatment and your appetite is poor, these are two spices that may help to improve your appetite when incorporated into dishes. And then finally, something like turmeric. Turmeric is a root organ. You can use it as a ground powder. With its bright yellow color, it's well known as an antioxidant. So again, a compound that helps to reduce oxidative stress in our body and can help manage or reduce chronic inflammation. Now, when looking at a recipe that incorporates herbs or spices, here I like, I tell you, you are your chef in your own kitchen, so get creative and feel free to substitute with what you have. So for example, if a recipe calls for any fresh herbs, feel free to use dried if that's what you have at home. Keep in mind that dried herbs are more concentrated in their flavor, so I recommend using less than what the recipe would call for with a fresh herb. And when it comes to the cooking process, add dried herbs earlier in the cooking process to allow those flavors to expand and meld together with the dish. Whereas fresh herbs, that's something that you typically add at the end right before eating. Now, just in general, I recognize that herbs and spices can be a pricier option or item at the store. I suggest trying to buy any herbs or spices in bulk, and this goes with many items. Buying in bulk tends to stretch your dollar. And then you can also find herbs and spices at a good cost at Aldi's or your local dollar store. And then look for more generic or store brand names versus any maybe some pricier brands or brand name options. Now, aside from herbs and spices, if I go down a bit, the next part of the pantry list includes your oils and fats. So we have here, for example, avocado oil, coconut oil, or olive oil. These are all plant-based fats, lower at least olive oil and avocado, in saturated fat. I recommend trying to incorporate more plant-based fats into your diet that have monounsaturated or polyunsaturated fats, which help to lend itself to a heart protection. Now, both olive oil and avocado oil can be pricey. Other good oils to cook with are canola oil, corn oil, or any olive oil blends. Other fats that you may include in your pantry are any nuts, seeds, or any nut butters. Now, moving on, Rebecca then goes to talk a bit more about beans and legumes. So you can see up in the shelf-stable area, if you're joining by computer, she has lists 4 varieties of beans: black beans, cannellini beans, chickpeas, and kidney beans. Also lentils as a legume, and then she includes frozen peas and frozen edamame. Now, as a dietitian, I think I like talking about beans the most. Beans not only are a good source of fiber, but also plant-based protein. Now, within this pantry list, don't feel limited to just these beans. Any bean that you like can work. This may be pigeon peas, black-eyed peas, brown beans, pinto beans. There's 400 different variety of beans, so I hope there's one out there that you like, that works for you, and is accessible. So while we're talking about beans, I'm gonna pause from the pantry list. I'm gonna turn my camera down to show a quick demo of one of Rebecca's recipes, highlighting the use of beans and some other shelf-stable options. So I will be making her greens and beans. We have here my skillet that I'm going to turn on to medium-high heat. Now, here I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Now, again, this is what the recipe initially calls for. If you don't have olive oil, feel free, again, use maybe canola, vegetable, and olive oil blend. And to this, I'm going to add 3 cloves of garlic that I've chopped up. And I'm going to let this brown a bit, kind of get fragrant in the oil. And I'm going to throw in a few sprinkles of red pepper flakes. Now, if you're not a fan of heat, you can always leave red pepper flakes out. If you don't have red pepper flakes, you know, you can always substitute with any spice, whether that is cayenne for a little bit of heat or maybe some hot sauce. I'm going to start adding my greens. Now, let's say you don't have any cloves of garlic on hand. Again, you can utilize minced garlic or garlic powder. The conversion factor here is about a half a teaspoon of garlic powder for 1 clove of garlic. So that would be a total of about 1.5 teaspoons of garlic if you're using garlic powder. Now, the recipe is for 8 cups of greens. Now, this can be spinach, this can be collard greens, this can be kale, Swiss chard, escarole, beet greens, dandelion greens, whatever greens you like, or that are easy for you to find. You can even use canned or frozen greens as well. If you're using canned or frozen, I would recommend to maybe squeeze off some of the extra liquid before putting it in your pan, or to just let it cook a little bit longer to cook off any extra liquid, depending on what your preferences are. Now, when it comes to any canned goods, whether that's canned beans or canned veggies. Here you get the convenience that it's already kind of processed or made for you. So compared to dried beans, canned is super easy. Pop it open, rinse it off, and add it to whatever dish you're making. Now, dried beans, you might extend your dollar a little bit, get more bang for your buck, but you do have to factor in the time that it takes to prepare the dried beans. You may even find in the grocery store frozen options like frozen black-eyed peas. These are another great item to add to your cart. Now, these you can either heat up before adding them to a dish or have them cook right into whatever meal you're making if they're frozen. When it comes to produce that's either fresh, canned, or frozen, the health benefits are not significantly changed between these preparation methods. The only thing I want to note with the canned goods, do be mindful of the sodium content. If you can, try to opt for lower sodium canned options. If not, just again, with everything, give it a good rinse. Try to rinse off that excess sodium from the canned preserves. But the fiber, protein, vitamin, mineral content is the same between canned or dried beans. Now, when it comes to veggies, I think frozen vegetables are a great option. When produce is picked to be frozen, it's picked at its peak ripeness and then flash frozen. So you can think all those good phytonutrients, those plant compounds are preserved and frozen. Now, if you have, let's say, fruit over time, if you let it rot or go to waste, again, you won't be getting those phytonutrient benefits. So here, I'm gonna pull down my camera again. You can see that it's starting to wilt a little bit. And depending on the size of your pan, again, you might have to do this in batches to let some of the greens wilt down. I have a combination here of some kale and some Swiss chard. What I'm gonna do now is add a little, like a half cup of water. You can also use a low sodium broth. And I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Now, tomato paste offers that, and there, I told you my dog wanted to be invited at some point. Tomato paste offers that umami or that savory flavor. If you don't have tomato paste, you can always use tomato sauce, but tomatoes aren't the only option that provides that umami. Other ideas would be something like a can of sardines or anchovies that can provide a nice umami flavor. Olives also provide an umami flavor. Mushrooms, balsamic vinegar. So again, I like to encourage that, you have control in your kitchen. So if there's something in a recipe that you don't have or that you don't like, there's always a substitution, or you can just leave it out too. Now here I'm just trying to incorporate the tomato paste a bit more and let that come together. Once the greens have been sauteed to your liking or are wilted down, you can take the pan off the heat and add in an acid to kick up the brightness. So I'll be using half a lemon here to add a little brightness at the end, and you can do this before serving. Just give it a nice little stir. And then really this dish is done just as. That's how quick and easy it was. Beforehand, all I did was chop up the garlic, rinse off the beans, and rinse off and cut up the greens real quick. Now, if you don't have a lemon, for some acid option at the end, you can always use lemon juice concentrate. Now, just keep in mind, because it's concentrate, again, the flavor is more intense. So if you add the same amount, it might come off a little bitter. So add just a little bit less than what the recipe calls for. If you're not a fan of the lemon flavor in general, any acid will work, like a vinegar, so apple cider vinegar, white wine vinegar, red wine vinegar. Again, your choice there, or you can omit it altogether, and again, just serve as is. Now, I like this dish sometimes with a little bit more substance to it. So I have had it as a breakfast bowl before. So topping it with a fried egg and maybe having it with some roasted sweet potatoes. You can always serve it over rice or pasta, pair it with another protein like chicken or fish. Or again, going more the plant-based option, add in a little bit more beans if you feel like you got a good appetite, or always some tempeh or some tofu as well. But that's it. That's one of her greens and beans. Now, this particular recipe is from her Thriving Fall menu. So in the program, Rebecca has designed a number of different menus, and you will find, again, plant foods as the main ingredients. Now, when it comes to her recipes, you will notice that it's not necessarily strict vegan or, again, vegetarian, but she does offer vegetarian options for each meat dish that she has. And then if you choose to consume only plant foods, you can easily swap out, let's say, chicken or fish with something like tofu, beans, or tempeh, as you prefer. Now, I just want to go back and finish up some of the pantry list. You can see that she includes grains. Again, this may be oats or rice. Quinoa is a whole grain. That's a gluten-free option that's higher in protein than other grain options. And then we have this other section, and this may be your canned tomatoes or tomato paste, like in the recipe tonight. Any canned fish, salmon, tuna, some sweeteners like dried fruit or honey, maple syrup. You have kudzu, which is a thickener, canned coconut milk, and then your flavor boosters off to our right-hand side. And these, again, like I talked about the acid, your different vinegars, maybe soy sauce or tamari, mustard, kombu, and some more of our fresh produce options. So when looking at this pantry list, there's some items that, again, you can buy in bulk to cut down on costs. You may find at the food pantry, and then using programs like Produce Perks to help extend dollars towards fresh produce. So with that as our pantry list, I now want to take the moment to introduce Ty. Ty, can you talk a little bit more about your role at the Cleveland Clinic?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to the Gathering Place for having me. I'm so excited to join and talk about cancer prevention, cancer screening, and specifically ways that we can use food as a cancer prevention tool. So like Stephanie mentioned, my name's Ty. I work for the Cleveland Clinic as part of our community outreach team in our Cancer Institute. That's the Taussig Cancer Institute. And our team has one mission, and that's to reduce cancer disparities. Specifically, the worst and the most at-risk populations face the worst cancer disparities. So we're talking about underserved populations, underrepresented populations. They are often faced with, some of the worst health and cancer outcomes, unfortunately, and that's due to a number of factors. So our team is really out there trying to break down those barriers to care and provide access and improved access to healthcare resources for those populations. Specifically, my role is working with some of the underserved LGBT populations, but my team also does some great work in racial and ethnic minorities. We have programs that focus on faith-based communities. We have programs that are focused on Hispanic communities. And again, all with the same goal in mind, just trying to reduce those disparities within cancer and ultimately reduce late-stage diagnosis so people stay healthier for longer.
Thanks for a little bit more information about your role. Very good cause to help, again, bridge some of that gap. Now, when working with or patients or people who, what do you hear in the way of nutrition, or what are some nutrition questions that either you may have from the program or that come up?
Yeah, I mean, my first question is, what time's dinner and where can I get it? I definitely should not have joined while I was still a bit hungry, because as you were cooking that garlic, I could smell it. It was just a, cognitive thing.
Yeah, imagine me here, it's right in front of, I'm gonna be drooling in a second.
Yeah, if you need to like jump off screen and just, have a couple of bites, I won't, I'll cover for you. So, yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I mean, there's a couple of items on the pantry list that I am less familiar with. Like, for example, you mentioned kudzu, and I wasn't sure what that was. I hadn't heard of it. Could you expand a bit?
Yeah, so kudzu, that's a great question, is an item that I get, a lot of participants point out to say, I haven't heard of this or I haven't cooked with this before. What is it? Kudzu is actually a climbing vine plant that is native to Asia, that has actually grown as an invasive species in the south. So if you're driving down a highway in the south, you may see it on the side of the road. But it's an edible plant. So the leaves, you can think of kind of like spinach. They can be eaten in similar ways. And the stems you can eat as well. Now, the roots are used and ground into powder to form a thickening agent. So Rebecca uses kudzu in recipes to create kind of like a thickness, or like a pudding recipe, for example. She has kudzu in as a thickener. Now, she uses kudzu. She finds that some people might be easier digestion-wise, but this is something that, again, if you're not familiar with it or want to try something at home, you could use cornstarch, potato flakes, or arrowroot powder. Now, if you want to try kudzu, you can find it at local Asian markets. There's the one on Miles or the Asian Town Center in Midtown area. With kudzu, another question I get a lot is, well, what's kombu? Can you tell me about kombu? Kombu, again, is a more native to Asian cuisine. It's a dried seaweed that is used as a flavoring for that umami, or that savory flavor. So in place of kombu, if that's not something that you're out to add to your pantry, you can substitute with bay leaves or some of the items I mentioned earlier, like tomatoes or mushrooms.
Awesome. Yeah, I was actually just reviewing Rebecca's cookbook this past weekend, and we were going to do some of the recipes this week, and we had, I think, most of the ingredients, so it wasn't a problem, but there were a couple of things that I wasn't sure about, so thanks for that. I also have some questions around, you know, one of the most popular things I think that I hear about in at least the, you know, sexual and gender minority community, but also, you know, across different populations, they always talk about, you know, the clean foods and like a clean 15 or something like that. And I mean, on one level, of course, I understand that there are more like whole grains versus you know, processed foods. But what is exactly a clean food, and what is the significance of a clean 15 or dirty food? You know, what's the difference there?
Well, how I like to respond, a clean food is one that you've washed. So always trying to practice good food safety practices. Now, in more, I guess, like lingo or trendy marketing, there's two ways to think of clean in your question. So some people think of clean eating. So a clean eating pattern is one that tries to reduce intake of highly processed foods. And this is something that, again, I support. You gave the example of trying to find whole grains versus refined or highly processed grains or carbohydrates. So think, you know, a banana is going to be much different than a candy bar in way of nutrition benefits. Now, refined grains definitely have their space on your plate, especially going through cancer. Sometimes it's hard to digest a lot of fiber all at one time. So definitely here, sticking with white toast, white rice can be beneficial to manage some side effects. Now, on the other half of that question, what is the clean list or clean 15 versus food that's considered a dirty or dirty dozen? Now, this is a list that is produced each year by the Environmental Working Group about foods that, by their methods, may have exposure to more herbicides or pesticides. So these lists are all about talking of organic produce. Now, organic produce versus conventionally grown produce offers the same vitamins, the same minerals, the same fiber content. The only thing that may differ between the two is some research suggests that organically grown produce may have higher levels of phytonutrients. Again, that's part of the beneficial effect of plants. However, not significantly so. You're still getting your phytonutrients when buying conventional produce. So when it comes to conventional versus organic, I leave this up to you. This is a consumer choice. From the health benefits, the bottom line is to eat more plants, and then you choose, you know, what you support in the way of farming practices, or again, what goes in your grocery cart.
Okay, yeah. Actually, one of the things that I always say in the community, and especially, I mean, when it pertains to the LGBT community, I like to say, you know, when it comes to food as nutrition, make sure that you're eating the rainbow, right? So eating, you know, all different colors, fruits, vegetables, because that's how you get those different phytonutrients. Yeah, but then every once in a while, you know, someone will throw the taste the rainbow at me and try to convince me that Skittles are a balanced diet, and that's obviously not true.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Skittles as the only way to balance.
Yeah. Fruit flavor does not equal fruit vitamins and minerals. Let's say that, huh?
Yeah.
One thing, you know, that I think we are really concerned about from a prevention standpoint when it comes to cancer is, you know, comorbidities, right? That's what worsens health outcomes in general, and then, of course, it trickles down to cancer outcomes as well. And, you know, one of those comorbidities is obesity. So, you know, when it comes to using food as medicine, how, you know, is there a way of eating that addresses concerns specific to obesity? And then what are some like suggestions that someone facing food insecurity while trying to manage obesity might, some suggestions you might have?
That's a great question. So this type of eating pattern that we're talking about tonight, more of a plant-based diet, again, fits to help maintain health in all walks of life. So again, if dealing with obesity, I mentioned earlier that plant foods offer a lot of fiber. Fiber, again, can help us feel full while reducing or maintaining an appropriate calorie intake to help lead to a healthy weight. Now, when it comes to eating in general and dealing with weight, I ask yourself, what are you consuming and what is the spectrum of nutrition benefits? So take, for example, juice. So juice, fruit juice, we have, our vitamins, minerals that we would get from fruit too, but you are consuming juice in a way that doesn't keep you full very long, and it's a way that may lead to eating often next. So there's a difference between eating an orange and eating a juice or drinking a juice. If you're drinking juice all day long or other beverages that contain calories, this is one way that can lead to extra calories and weight gain over time. So right then and there, I recommend switching to water versus juice, or maybe something like unsweetened tea as a fluid with no calories. Now,
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love that point. I mean, one of the things that I have, I've convinced some friends, but I'm still working on my parents, trying to convince them to stop drinking so much soda and pop, and really drinking those calories, because it's sort of a waste. So yeah, I appreciate that point.
And with that too, soda, again, ask yourself, you're getting the calories, but what nutrition are you getting from it? And similar to juice, yes, you're getting some vitamins, but you're missing out on that fiber. Another suggestion would be, how are you serving your food? So what's the food method of preparation? Baking versus frying. And then just looking at your plate, how big is your plate, or what's your portion size? So I think, Tyler, when we actually were talking earlier, you had brought up the great point of plate size matters. So if you use large plates at home, you want to fill that. Your eye is the first point of contact with your meal, and you want, to look at all your good food. So reducing your plate size can be another strategy to keep appropriate portion sizes to then keep, again, your energy intake in balance. Now, when it comes to solutions or strategies when facing food insecurity, again, this is where I recommend turning to some of those local resources to help increase access to healthy food. Again, like the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, more education on how to build a healthy plate from EFNEP, and the others that I have included on the list.
Yeah, I love that. I think, one thing that we try to talk about when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle, I mean, of course, for my team, it's very much focused on, getting those cancer screenings, making sure that you're aware of what screening guidelines exist, make sure you're aware if there's any family history of cancer in your family, and also doing any sort of prevention work that you can to avoid dealing with cancer, later in life. And one of those prevention methods, of course, is eating a healthier, or having a healthier diet and eating better. So between managing weight, that's definitely one benefit. But when it comes to cancer prevention too, do you have any suggestions for healthy weight management? I mean, for me, I try to focus not so much on numbers and what you actually weigh, but the way in which you're consuming your food, like you're saying, watch portion size and things like that. So yeah, any suggestions there?
Weight is such a complex area. So besides just calories in and calories out, there's a lot more factors that matter. Whether that's, again, what is your stress level like? How is your energy? How do your clothes fit? What is kind of your metabolism like, and how much are you moving? So when it comes to managing weight, think of diet as a tool to help you overall just feel the best you can. When you feel your best and you're able to move more, this all plays a part in, again, helping to reach or maintain a healthy weight there.
Yeah, I love that. You know, it actually reminded me of something, and especially since it's Minority Health Month, one thing that is so prevalent in when you look at healthcare disparities is the role that minority stress plays, whether that's, you know, an LGBT person who, you know, is, you know, receiving verbal slurs when they walk down the street, or, you know, police brutality towards people of color. I mean, there's so much that weighs on a person, and I think that then translates to smoking tobacco, for example, as a way to stress relief, or stress eating. And so I think these are all things that affect a person's overall health. And so taking a sort of holistic approach and trying to deal with that minority stress in as healthy of a manner as we can, it has to be the way out of this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, managing, again, stress is very important, and trying to then utilize those resources in the community to help ease areas of stress in your life. So again, with food access concerns, I'd like to allow a little bit of time here. If Anne or Isiah have any information or any input that they would like to add, feel free. I want to give you a moment to share any information about your programs or resources. Let me unmute. I think we got it.
Okay, I'll yield to Anne, you know, ladies first.
Okay, sure. I'm from Ohio State University's FNET program. It's the Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program. It's actually kind of similar to Cancer Fighting Kitchen. It might be just sort of a longer version of that. Normally it's an in-person program, and it's sort of it's a 9-part course, and it's complete with cooking demonstrations in person where we all sort of cook together, but obviously we can't do that right now during COVID. So right now it's a virtual program that we're doing over Zoom, and it's 1 hour sessions. It's 9 weeks long, and we focus on a number of issues. We use the Dietary Guidelines for Americans as a basis in the My Plate model. So it is it's inclusive. We talk about a plan of eating rather than diets, so that, you know, it is inclusive of different people's tastes and preferences, of their restrictions, food allergies, and, you know, cultural preferences. And so that, you know, we just talk about these are all the foods that are here on Earth, that the Earth gives us, and then these are how we group them into different categories based on their nutrient value, and these are the portions of the foods that, you know, you should be putting in your body based on what your body needs. So we talk about portion sizes, like how much protein, in the range of protein your body should be taking in, how much vegetables, fruits, and grains. And we talk about whole grains versus refined grains, and the differences between them and the parts of the grain. And we get into the, you know, nitty-gritty of all that, and the different, you know, eating the rainbow of fruits and vegetables and how to incorporate more of those. Food safety practices, how not to, you know, how to thaw meat properly, how to cook it to the proper temperature, keep food clean, keeping it separate, how to incorporate more physical activity into your life. And then we also talk about how it really involves the whole family. So how to get, if you are making healthy changes, how to get children on board with that. So meal planning, like how to do more of your cooking at home, how to manage your food resources. So we do talk about the Produce Perks program and how to access that at local farmers markets, the dollar for dollar, and also at, I think it's Dave's grocery store participates in that program. And how to sort of try to plan out your meals for the week, how to use your leftovers in a creative way so that we are not wasting food, and also how to, how to deal with picky eaters too, because if you know how to get children on board, how to get them involved in the shopping and cooking process so that they, can get on board with this. Because sometimes when adults need to make healthy changes to their diets, it can be difficult to get the children on board with it, but it benefits everybody when people make a change.
I love that.
So what questions do you have?
As we, again, I know we're nearing that 7 o'clock hour. I know we got started a little bit late, and I do want to allow Isiah to add any commentary on the food bank as well. I am going to stay on to address any questions or comments that come up. And again, I will unmute everyone's microphone, and I'll be ending the recording at this time. Although, I respect your time, so if you're on the call and, have to leave, we can always connect via email to answer any questions as well.
Okay, so just real quick, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Isiah Thomas. I work as a client health specialist with the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. And very quickly, just want to talk a little bit about the food bank. So what we are is an organization that just really tries to provide access to healthier food for everyone. To really decrease that meal gap that a lot of us unfortunately experience. So what we try to do is we try to provide information regarding our food pantries, our hot meal locations, and our produce locations. So we want to give people options in terms of what they want to eat. Of course, all of it is free, but then we also help people by providing access to SNAP, which is the program formerly known as food stamps, where we help people to apply for those benefits. We walk them through the process, and in the attempt that, because our study has found that food stamps provide a whole lot more food and nutrition than our pantries, believe it or not. So we want to make sure that people have the option of not only having access to food assistance, but also to our pantries, hot meals, and produce locations. So one does not disqualify you from the other. You could go and use your SNAP benefits at your favorite grocery store, but then because we also know that food is not as expensive as it used to be, we also encourage our clients to utilize our pantries to get food that would normally be expensive at the grocery stores. So as you mentioned earlier, with some of the herbs and things of that nature, maybe a little bit more pricier at the grocery stores, you may be able to find those at our pantries or even the farmers markets. So we just try to provide that information to our clients, along with some other things as well. We've learned that if you're having trouble feeding yourself, then there may be some other areas that you may need assistance with. So we also try to make to try to be full circle in terms of the resources that we provide or link our clients to. And can I leave my number?
Yeah, you are more than welcome if you feel comfortable typing it in the chat box.
Okay.
And I think on your end, if you select to everyone, again, everyone can see it then in the chat box. If not, I can copy and paste it.
Okay, I'm doing that right now. Thank you all, everybody, for your time.
Yeah.
Put my information in there too.
And Isaiah, if you don't mind, before you sign off, I did want to ask a little bit more if you could speak to the Food as Medicine initiative and what that really entails with the food bank.
Oh, sure. So that's fairly new. I think it may be under a year old. And what we've done is we just collaborated with a lot of the healthcare providers in the area. And what happens is, and this happened to me, when a patient goes in to see their doctor, during that visit, at some point, there will be a nurse or someone affiliated with the hospital that will ask a series of questions to kind of identify if that patient is food insecure. If they are, they'll submit a referral on their behalf to us. And then what we will do is we'll follow with that client to really get down to the nitty gritty in terms of what it is that they need assistance with. Sometimes it's just access to food. Other times it's access to food plus the ability to be able to afford food. So on my end, what I would do is I would provide information regarding our food resources in their area, but then also help them to apply for the benefit of SNAP as well.
That's great. That's a really awesome initiative and resource to take advantage of, in addition to, again, more education programs like the expanded food education and nutrition program. Thank you guys for both joining the call. Now, does anyone